What's up, world? Mike Lang here with the homie Webs, as always, and we're back for our next episode of AI on AI. And Webs, today we're going to talk really about how exactly are we helping learners in our classrooms break down barriers. And those could be language barriers, those could be accessibility barriers, those could be, helping them understand that some of the skills that we grew up having to memorize and internalize may not be skills that they need to invest so heavily in, that they are perhaps forgetting that these tools are going to improve over time. So, breaking ankles is going to be the title of this episode. Webbs, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing okay. I was kind of rough yesterday, but
Oh, indeed,
much better today.
indeed. I like the cap is cool. The cap is cool. I like the cap kind of gives you a little edge there, a little swag. Indeed,
Thanks.
indeed. And so, similar to the last episode, we're going to use Ethan Malick's co-intelligence book kind of to keep us on some guardrails. And then at the end, we're going to do an activity that you could do in your classroom using some AI tools that are available, again, to help your young people be successful, be creative, and use their imaginations to change how they view the world, hopefully. So, without further ado, let's get crack-a-lacking webs. Again, we're going to be dealing with the second principle. And the second principle of co-intelligence in Ethan Malick's book is be the human in the loop. And before we go kind of to delve into the questions, when the concept be the human in the loop is utilized in computing in your industry, like what does that mean, Webbs? Can you explain that to us?
I mean, for as powerful and accurate as computers can be, there's always a certain amount that they are wrong. Not just wrong, but like or off, I guess, a little bit, right? Like, think about say autocorrect. Autocorrect is extremely helpful. It does a lot of fabulous things. And also, I never mean ducking, you know? So like you got to be the person that's there to adjust and change and like audit what's happening and the output that you're being given because if you're writing something in Google and it gives you a suggestion or Outlook, sometimes yeah, it's great. Another great example. How many people out there have Outlook as their email or work or school or whatever? And you go to search for something, an email you know you got like in the last couple days, you search for, I don't know, maybe it's about email about your principal, right? So you look up your principal's name and you get every other email going back decades, but not the one from yesterday that you're looking for.
Mm.
So there are going to always be because really most technology is some sort of a product that's designed with the best guess as to how it will fit a given audience, and it's always gonna be off by a little. So you as the human being have to always be in the loop, be able to audit what you're given back and ensure that it meets the needs that you're aiming and solves the problem you're trying to solve, meets the goal you're trying to achieve. If you just leave it on its own, it's probably not gonna end up where you then.
Absolutely. So let's keep that in mind as we kind of approach Malick's work here. And the first quote I kind of took from that chapter is this one. So for now, and he definitely prefaces this statement. For now, AI works best with human help, and you want to be that helpful human. As AI gets more capable, excuse me, and requires less human help, you still want to be that human. Do you agree with that statement? And if you do agree with it, in what sense do you agree with it?
Um, I, I think so for the
Okay.
most part. So the thing that gave me pause was the for now. Um, but there are plenty of pieces of computing that now function on their own. Like pieces have been built on top of pieces have been built on top of pieces to where we're not writing an assembly code anymore, right? We've written progressively more complex computing languages that are closer to human language. And so it those lower level processes don't require to have a human in the middle. But
Mhm.
I guess in the sense that they're the basis for what we're doing now, there's still a human in the loop. It's just that the simpler processes are sort of operating on their own. So I can see a world where AI becomes yet another kind of Lego in the pile. You know, it's one more tool that we can use, and there'll be something more sophisticated that we're still involved with, but certain behind the scenes processes don't involve any.
Yeah, I thinking about it from just a classroom perspective, what I really was struck with was even as things advance, you want to be knowledgeable enough about how things interact that you are an asset. And so when we talk about, okay, it's going to improve again, it'll improve and improve and improve. All technology improves eventually, right? But there's still a, you still want to be the individual who can fix the washer and dryer, right? I can still, I understand where there are the sweet spot in between where the two, um, the AI is speaking or doing some kind of mundane task and it breaks down, it doesn't work. I'm knowledgeable enough about that particular process that I can step in, I can fix it. Or I understand whatever prompt engineering evolves into. I understand that enough that I'm able to go ahead and do certain things and whatnot. That I don't become an obsolete. I don't become obsolete in all the skills requisite necessary to interact with the AI. And I think that's that is the piece that I think is important for teachers to make sure young people are aware of, that lots of the things that we're doing, again, writing sentences and grammar and punctuation, those are great things to make sure that you are aware of. However, as things continue to move forward, to kind of what you let off the show with, I need to have enough of that stuff in my head. Not that I can actualize it constantly, but when the AI breaks down, I'm able to fix it.
It reminds me a bit of a video I saw recently where they were discussing how kids nowadays don't understand basic computer skills.
Okay.
And the person making the video broke it down into, it's not that they don't understand basic computer skills. It's that what they grew up with was different. So what you're calling basic computer skills is basic to you because that was what was basic when you were growing up. Those were the essential skills you need to have in order to understand how computers work. For example, how to create a folder and understand a file folder system on a hard drive.
Mm,
Whereas kids now have grown up with Google Drive and you have a search function, very powerful function. So they have no need to delve deep. Basically, it's the web's version of organizing things in the mic version, which I gotta say I've really come around to this dump it somewhere and search for. Why waste your time creating this perfectly curated file structure when most places on a Mac you can now command space bar and search across your entire all your photos, all your files. So there isn't as much of a need to keep things in an immaculate hierarchy. And so I think um there is some value in understanding the underlying structures, but I would say that for those people that are primarily in our age group, say that kids don't have basic computer skills. Well, back in our time, like we didn't know how to use punch cards. Does that mean we didn't know basic computer skills? It's those are things that are going to evolve, and I think there's a benefit to having the learning as the technology grows, and also have to recognize that not everyone has the opportunity to learn as the technology. So their skill sets.
absolutely, absolutely. I definitely agree. But also, putting yourself in that gap also allows you, to your point, it allows me to know what AI can do at this particular time, moment in time, what it can't do, and how I can be I can take advantage of the things it can do, and I can also take advantage of the things it can't do. And I think that's also super important, especially as the generative video is becoming more and more realistic and more lifelike. The artwork is becoming more lifelike. It's able to write with given prompts. It's able to write a lot more expressive, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're not aware that those things are happening, you can't guard yourself against the, again, becoming obsolete because of these things. And also, you can't take advantage of these things as they improve as well. So I think that's excellent. Second question, or second quote from the book. To be the human in the loop, you need to be able to check the AI for hallucinations and lies and be able to work with it without being taken in by it. You provide crucial oversight, offering your unique perspective, critical thinking skills, and ethical considerations. Can you speak to a little bit about what hallucinations are when we talk about AI?
Yeah. So We talked a couple episodes ago about how AI works, right? It scrapes most cases. We're talking about a large language model. It scrapes the whole of the internet and is looking for patterns, looking for little nuggets of information. And I say it's looking for, it's pulling in nuggets of information. And so it may take two pieces of information and put them together, even though they don't. So say for example, you might ask it something like, what are the relevant court cases that determined that schools had to be segregated? And it may say, um, um, Brown versus Ferguson, right? And so it's taking Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus Board of Education and mashing them together. There is no such case called Brown versus Ferguson, but it's taken two different pieces of information and mashed them together. And it can make a very convincing explanation for what that court case was that doesn't really exist. So you have to either, and this is talked, I think, was 2 episodes ago about how the preference is that when you're working with a tool that's using a large language model, some other type of AI, you want to make sure that it is giving you references for where it's getting its information for that reason. So if you're asking about pyroclastic flow and it gives you some way off base answer that's cobbling together different random bits and pieces that it's pulled in, know that it's inaccurate because it you get what it's referencing.
Yeah, it's another.
I had a really good example of this. I was looking for there was I had seen a TikTok video where they talked about a serial killer using a specific song.
Mm.
And I was like, something about that doesn't seem right. So I started doing some Googling and the song didn't even come out like at the same time as the serial killer was like serial killing or whatever. And then the only reference articles I could find were circular references to a Yahoo News article that referenced the TikTok that this came from. And it was just continuing to go, or like I'd find an article say on MSNBC or something, whatever like the um Microsoft News thing is, and it would reference back to the Yahoo News article. So I knew that this probably wasn't true. It was some sort of like AI generated story, and there was nowhere to like back up the information that it was saying.
So you're saying that digital literacy skills are still going to be important in the age of AI. The
I would
whole
say even more so than they ever have been because you have to be very adept at spotting things that seem hanky.
it's the whole I used to use this because it was something I thought was cool and it became popular. The whole tree octopus activity. When so really really cool activity in which you just tell the students, yep, they just discovered a new species of octopus. It lives in a tree, and had the kids have to go through and either confirm or deny the fact that the tree octopus exists. And so, again, don't trust what Mr. Lang says. We need to, how do you actually help students actualize their digital citizenship skills through research and having to use references from the internet. And of course, it comes out to there's no such thing as a tree octopus. Mr. Lang totally made that up. These are the reasons why octopi live in the oceans. They need water. Da, 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 da. All right, cool. And so I think the very interesting thing about what you're saying is, again, there's the human element in this process. If I am not someone who has the research skills requisite in order to question the outputs from these tools, then I am going to be taken advantage of. One of the things that Moloch uses in this particular passage is AI is geared to make human users happy. And so it will tell you things to make you happy. You're searching for this? Great. I don't want you to be upset with me. Let me go and conjure this answer out of the ether that makes you happy, that makes you feel good, that says, Webbs, you're absolutely correct that song for that serial killer came out. Yep. I'm going to show you and create references that actually reinforce the fact, because I don't want Webb to go away sad. My chief duty is to make sure Webb has a smile on her face. And it's really, once you start understanding the mundanities and the peculiarities of the tools, you're like, okay, great. How do we make sure that young people in classrooms are doing independent research before they're coming to AI tools in lots of senses, where I have a knowledge base that I am very sure of, these are things that are correct. And then I'm going to the AI tool to go and help me perhaps think about the research that I found differently, create plays or structures for
Scaffold.
podcasts or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
in a lot easier way, rather than relying on the AI tool to generate all the reference material that I need in order to do certain things. So yeah, definitely agree. Anything else to add?
So that's the basic information.
So again, we're definitely reinforcing, if you're a teacher in a classroom utilizing AI tools, we want the young people to be utilizing these tools not in a way that the tool is working on them, in which they're working on the tools and utilizing those tools to do work, but they're doing it in a researched and accurate manner that allows them to be able to create the things that we want them to be able to create. And Wes, when you're talking about in your particular job, what are ways that people are using AI tools on your job or your W-2 job in order to to help speed up their processes, despite the fact that they have the knowledge base to check how things are working?
Um, so I know that from the developer perspective, uh, creating boilerplate code when you know you're doing kind of a very similar thing that you've done before, it's helpful to the AI to generate a bunch of boilerplate. Like, I know I'm connecting to some service. I know I want this to be the output. Here, generate that code for me. That's a great example of where you need to be able to like audit and validate what it's giving you to make sure that it works as expected and it's doing what you expect it to do. Another example is being able to generate like the tool like Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, where you can give it a bunch of like information, say from like an internal Wikipedia or from code base, and then that creates your own um custom bot to be able to ask questions to. So instead of me having to go find the person who wrote the code or find a developer who wrote the code to answer the question for me, I can query the Copilot and it'll give me an answer like, "Oh yeah, this is how this particular piece works," or "Yeah, this is how what the features of this particular uh, product are," or something like that. And then I think one other way that we use it is generating scaffolding. So, say for example, are going to send out an email and you're going to outline, I don't know, a few important events that are coming up that might impact people. You might ask Copilot like, "Hey, generate an email for me. This is the audience. These are the important bullet points," and it'll provide an email a first pass
Mm,
and then go in and edit it, update it, whatever you need to do. 'Cause it's a lot faster to edit something that already exists than sit there at the blank, staring at a blank page like, oh, what do I write? How should I structure this? Like, you know how to do that, but that context switching, maybe you were thinking about something else. Like, it's not like that is super important to your job. So let the AI take the load off and give you the first pass so that you can quick edits and ways that can make us more efficient rather than and take away some of like the mundane that isn't really where our brain power should be.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's look here at the next one, and this is one of my favorite passages in the book in this particular session. This collaboration, talking about the collaboration between humans and the AI tool, leads to better results and keeps you engaged with the AI process, preventing over reliance and complacency. Being in the loop helps you maintain and sharpen your skills as you actively learn from AI and adapt to new ways. I left the word learn them, sorry, and adapt to new ways of thinking and problem solving. Now, when I first saw being in the loop helps you maintain and sharpen your skills, I was like, that is very interesting phrasing there. Until I thought about how I use non AI tools. So,
Say more because this one I'm not sure I totally.
So, one of the things that I like to do is I like to edit video. Now, if you would have told me 15 years ago, Mike, you have to be able to edit video, commercially, video editing was something that was way out of the purview of the layman sitting at the computer at home. It's not something that we did. All right, when I first started teaching, it was expensive in terms of learning how to do it. It was very time consuming, and then I just started to play around with stuff. All right, cool. I started, again, the first time I got Final Cut Pro, it was like 2009 or something crazy like that. I didn't have a computer that was optimized in order to do it. Only 8 gigs of RAM. It would take me 3 or 4 hours to actually render something. It was like very painful. And so, because of that pain, I sought out individuals who had better skills with me than I did. I looked for cheats around. I only have 8 gigs of RAM. The school is not going to buy machines that have more than that. Like, how do I figure out a way to run this thing? Like, what do I do? And slowly but surely, despite the fact that this piece of technology or this software didn't really change, I changed so that I was able to use it a lot more efficiently. I was able to find assets from other individuals that kind of streamlined the process. I was able to teach students how to use the tools, etc. And because I was so interested in video editing, I just immersed myself in this world where, oh my goodness, my skills were constantly being improved. And as I reflected on what he was saying, I was like, absolutely. If I look at my journey as a video editor, as if I looked at my journey as just a teacher, right? At the beginning, I thought these things were true. And then I got around individuals like yourself or some of the OGs I dealt with. And they challenged the way that I looked at the world until I started to look at, okay, you know what? There are other ways I can do this that are going to enhance my skills, but also make sure I can drink my coffee while it was hot. That was one of the things that I always strove to do in school was how do I delegate a lot of the responsibilities in the classroom to the young people so they're doing the work and I'm simply supervising it. I'm still getting compensated as a teacher, but the individuals who need to actually have their brains flexed are flexing their brains, and then I'm able to be the person who orchestrates this symphony in a way that allows individuals. And that's how I started. When I read that, I was like, I need to be a conductor. And being a conductor, I just need to know with the string section, what they're doing, what the percussions are doing, and be able to wave my hands so that this sweet music is actually created that allows me to have this concerto now, right? And so if you think about it from that perspective, collaborating with the tools is going to make you a better conductor, which I think is the point. If you are forced to do all the things all the time, you are going to be stressed out. You're going to be a suboptimal performer on your job or in whatever activities you're dealing with. And I think that's what the point here in this particular passage is. Webbs, go ahead.
So what would you say if a teacher says that becoming relegated to a facilitator makes them feel like they're no longer in control at their job?
I would say that you aren't really looking at what your job is for what it should be, right? In the grand scheme of things, Phil Schlechte, who he's somebody who has passed away, was not someone who is currently in the AI generation of people. Back in 1992, essentially said your classroom should have an operating system, right? And Webbs, what is the point of an operating system on your computer? Like, what's the goal of an operating system?
It orchestrates all the programs, things that are on it, so that get work done.
I don't have to think about making sure every connection happens on my computer because the operating system does that for me. In the grand scheme of things, that makes me a more efficient player. And it doesn't, using the operating system on your computer doesn't make you less of a computer user or less of a programmer or teacher or whatever. It makes you more efficient in your job because I don't have to think about how every program is running on my machine. I have no idea how every program runs on my machine.
You don't know assembly? You're not writing assembly for every program.
I don't even know what that is. So it's like I have this conversation with teachers all the time. If you have a car that was manufactured in the last 5 or 6 years, you can't go and fix your own car, dude. That's not you don't you are not someone who is capable unless you work in the auto industry and your full-time job is a mechanic. You are not going underneath your hood and doing what your grandfather, your grandmother, and stuff was. Oh, we're gonna take the Oldsmobile out into the driveway, and we're gonna change the oil, and we're gonna fix the solenoid. Nah, fam, you're not doing that right now. And nor do you need to in order to drive your car. You can drive your car without that knowledge. So why is it a different conversation when we start to talk about and I mean, when we talk about AI, we talk about just machines in general. I do not take my debit card out of my wallet anymore. I take my phone, I scan, and we move through. Does that mean that I don't know how to use money, or is it this is a more efficient way in order to pay for the things that I need to pay for, so that it's more secure? I don't if I drop a $20 bill on the concrete and it blows away, I am not getting that $20 bill back. Whoever picks that up is going to just enjoy themselves doing whatever they're paying money for. If we look at AI as the fulfillment of how we can be creative and imaginative in our jobs without having to deal with a lot of the mundanities of learning every little minuscule process in every step of the things we need to do, then I think that there's an opportunity for us to there's a mutualism that should exist, right? And I think when we start looking at how symbiosis works, there's parasitism where hey, one organism is killing the other organism. Well, we can't look at AI in that particular sense, all right? There has to be a mutualistic benefit of here's AI, it is helping me be better at my job. Now the exchange is our interactions with AI are improving AI, right? And that could be both a good thing in a lot of ways, and that could be a bad thing in a lot of ways, right? But you can't interact with it and not have a situation in which it's also improving the way it interacts with human beings. What say you, Webbs?
Yeah, I'd agree with that because, if we are providing the feedback of, okay, that's closer, but I want more of this and less of that, that they're continuing to train that model based on those inputs and outputs. And also, if you're giving it your personally identifiable information, not great because it's also using that. So I think that would be kind of the downside. But I would agree with that assessment. Like there is a mutual there. But just like anything, you have to be thoughtful with how you interact with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, that goes back to that digital literacy piece we were talking about previously. You would not feed, photos of you in your home, or walkthrough of your home to Google, much less Gemini, or the name of your dog, or the name of your social security number, et cetera, et cetera. So, human in the loop there. As teachers, we need to be making sure that students leave the K-12 experience knowing this is what digital literacy is. This is how you behave online in order to protect yourself to, the fullest extent. I mean, you introduced to me the whole password manager concept and two-factor authentication, things like that. But those are things that we should be learning in school as a given, not as if your teacher is aware of these things existing. These are ways that you might protect yourself, and I think that's a conversation that definitely fits into this narrative that we're spinning. But that's a conversation that why are there not digital literacy classes in K-12 right now, and why is that not something that's integrated into your English class, your math class, your science class, etc.? All right, so dope. Let's look at the next question, and we want to get to our activity. So let's look at the next question quickly. Moreover, the human in the loop approach fosters a sense of responsibility and accountability. By actively participating in the AI process, you maintain control over the technology and its implications, ensuring that AI-driven solutions align with human values, ethical standards, and social norms. What say you to that, Webbs?
Yeah, like I think you can't start to talk about you can't start to influence the laws that govern things, even just the rules that govern AI in your own community until you understand how it works and how it doesn't work. Like, right? Like you're not engaging with the tool to better understand how it actually works. You're not coming to that conversation with an informed opinion. And instead you're likely operating from a place of fear. Like, nope, we're just gonna ban it. Well, that's completely like that's not gonna happen because it's being built into products and you can't unless you're gonna ban every digital product, and that's also not reasonable or rational or any of that. So I think just trying to stick your head in the sand and pretend like it doesn't exist, you're not going to be able to come to those conversations with informed perspective. Whereas if you're using it regularly and continuing to exercise your skills in how to interact with it and what are its limitations, what are the areas you need to be thoughtful about when it comes to ethics, when it comes to things like that, that's gonna make you more prepared to have those conversations at the level of influencing, um, regulations, laws, and all of that.
Yeah, I took the perspective of you need to be a white hat hacker in this particular situation, right? You need to be exploiting the tools, using them constantly, understanding, okay, cool. I didn't like how this responded to this. I think that's kind of dangerous. Let me go and speak to the developers of said product and say, okay, cool. How are you? I'm a teacher, especially using the power of you as an educator. I think a lot of times educators see themselves as powerless in lots of systems, but there are lots of tools. This has been personal experience. This is not me going in kind of like, generalizing. As an educator, I have gone into lots of spaces that are tech spaces that are not thinking about how their tools uh, influence or affect schools and saying, as a teacher, I really want to use your product, but these are the concerns I have. Is there any way you can address these concerns so that I can actually present this to my young people? Lots of people are open to that. First of all, because they're not thinking about the K-12 market as a place where, okay, you know what, this is a tool that could benefit of those young people in that particular environment, but also it exposes and makes their product better. And I think we have to assume that most people in the market are good actors. Well, that's a large assumption, but I think you have to assume that. And that if you bring something to their attention in the effort to build their brand and build their product, they are going to try to address some of the issues that might make their product not successful. And again, as an educator, as a group of educators, if you got 3 or 4 teachers and say, let's all email this particular company about, hey, we really like this, but these are things we would like to have addressed. Or this is a way you could really take your tool and apply it to K-12 to make even more money. No one's interested in not making more money. That this is a capitalistic kind of concept, right? And so when it comes down to it, if you're not constantly messing with these tools, if you're not constantly exploring the limits of the tools, or even you're a bigger TikTok user than I am. I tend to stay on Instagram Reels just because they're a lot, very short pieces of content. They present a viewpoint very quickly. If you just taking a stroll for 15 or 20 minutes through the internet and searching ed tech, AI, etc., to get yourself aware that there are certain tools that are being put into the marketplace that you might just want to sign up for a free account and mash some buttons and say, okay, this was cool or this wasn't cool. Those things are very important, I think, as educators to kind of be familiar with. What say you, Webbs?
Yeah, even as a PhD student, I've seen a couple of AI tools. Dog's throwing his ball at me.
It's all good.
He can't play now. Um, as a PhD student, there's a couple of tools. Like there's one called Consensus AI. You
Hmm.
can ask it a question like, you know, is there a relationship between, I don't know, exercise and literacy skills or something?
Hmm.
And it will try to find articles that relate to that topic and give you a summary. Then you can dig into the articles. It's an interesting tool. I've played with it a little bit, but I think one of the other benefits of taking the time to get familiar with certain tools is it may open you up to scaffolds you can use in order to bridge gaps that you might have for learners in your classroom, whether they're English learners, whether they're um, low vision, hearing impaired, whatever. There are a lot of tools out there that can bridge the gap um, and help you better reach your learners, which I think every teacher is interested
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's get to the very last question. Oh, that was the last one. All right, cool. So what we're going to do, kind of our theme of of of, of volcanology here, is
in. Pyroclastic flow.
we're going to
You'll
build
learn nothing but from watching every episode of this short run. Will or season. I don't know if it's a season. You
season.
will learn pyroclastic flow.
Absolutely. And so if you are a
And the
Clark
fact that
County, but
Ice Cube uses pyroclastic flow.
I mean, Ice Cube, that is where I understood the concept from. And so, like, literally, legitimately, the the best thing about that particular album is Keith David narrates it. And so you have his like very cool baritone, like rich voice. And he's when he says pyroclastics flow, like your spine gets like it's like tingle goes up your spine, like, oh my gosh, that was dope the way that you said that. But anyway, um, if you're a Clark County School District employee and you're teaching fifth grade, there is in topic 3, it's a natural disasters unit. I'm actually working with a teacher to build this out into some really cool stuff. And the 3 natural disasters are a volcanic eruption, a hurricane, and also an earthquake. And so we're going to kind of look at the thing that I helped co-design with this educator to build. And so one of the cool things about in 2 weeks we'll deal with this principle in Malik's book, but Malik has a idea I think most people who use AI at a high level utilize, and that is treat AI like a person. Just tell it what kind of person you want it to be. And that will get very controversial. We'll talk a lot about that with webs. But as long as you understand that you're talking to a bot, I don't see it as all that difficult of a situation because it helps you with the narrative that you're going to feed the AI. And when we help students see things in narratives, it helps it stick a lot better than here are these facts that don't really mean squat and memorize these things and suddenly we're going to give you a test. I mean, that's kind of silly.
Serious science.
So that being the case, we're going to take the role of volcanologist here, all right? And we're going to use the concept of taking the role of volcanologist as the way that we're going to engage with the AI tool, all right? So the United States Geological Survey is the entity in the United States that really looks at how we prepare people for natural disasters. Go ahead, Webbs. Oh, not volcanologist, volcanologist. So we're not going to deal with, Dr. Spock here. Even though Vulcan is very important for volcanology. So, super important. Now, first, I really love the idea of game-based knowledge because game-based knowledge, if you play lots of video games, you can fail over and over and over again. There's really no penalty for doing so other than you start over from the beginning. I mean, you don't get hit in the head with a fish or anything like that. It's just, hey, we start over from the beginning. Webs, looks like you had to say
That's
something.
actually one of the best practices for teaching strategies is immediate feedback, which is why video games provide that, and so they are good.
So this is National Geographic for Kids. I want to build prior knowledge in a student very quickly. The wonderful thing about this is at the top, but don't blow your top if you don't ace it on the first try. Absolutely positively. I don't care if you're right because at this point, you know nothing about volcanoes. That's what we're going to assume. Wonderful. Hit that start button. How about how many active volcanoes are there on Earth, Webbs? What do you think? 100, 600, 1,200, or 1,600?
I'm going to go 16.
1,600?
Yeah. What do you think?
Absolutely correct. Now, it tells me that information up here. Whether I'm right or wrong, it's going to give me the answer, which is what I want, because I'm going to copy this answer and throw it into a graphic organizer or a Padlet or whatever. So At the very least, regardless of whether the kid speaks English, whether they're the first day of their class or whatever, we're going to have 10 facts about volcanoes that everyone knows from National Geographic Kids. Now, we've already spoken a little bit about digital literacy. We know National Geographic Kids is a foremost authority on science. They're not going to make anything up. They have individual scientists on their payroll that make sure that the facts and the figures that they present to us are accurate. Wonderful. Can we trust National Geographic Kids? Yes, we can trust National Geographic Kids. Anything to add,
But
Web?
even if we wanted to, we could do additional wide searching and say, hey, find other sources. How many volcanoes are there on Earth? I imagine that this is also a number that changes from time to time, right?
So
So we could find other resources that provide us with, confirmation of how many active volcanoes there are.
So we can go to Andy search and whatnot and say, we know that right now there are about 1,900. If I throw anything into Andy and it says there's only 400 left, 400 volcanoes, I know that there's something going on in the background here. That's not all the synapses that are digital synapses of this particular program are not firing at the same rate. So cool. So wonderful. There are 10 questions here. We don't have time to go into all 10 questions, but we're going to say that we went through all 10 questions. There's a body of information that we're now in possession of.
Wait, do one more. One more.
Do one more. All right, let's go. True or false, volcanoes exist only on land.
This isn't a great assessment from a psychometrics perspective. There's a 50% chance I could get this, having no information about volcanoes. So this question is sus, but
The question
volcanoes
is,
only exist on land. False. Isn't Hawaii a chain of volcanoes, basically?
but the question is sus if I'm actually assessing you on it. But I'm not assessing
That's
you
fair enough.
because I'm
We're
giving
just
you the
trying to
answer.
explore. It's exploratory. Yeah, that's
I
fair.
simply want to build your prior knowledge. I don't care about whether you were right on the first guess or not. Yep, there are definitely Webb's had some prior knowledge about the fact that Hawaii is a chain of islands that were all created for volcanic activity. Wonderful. Now, let's go to next. That's Vesuvius. Let's go to next. That's Mauna Kea. Let's go to next. Let's go to Mars. Go to next.
Done. Sure.
Okay, cool. So this is the question I wanted to get to. Where does the word volcano come from? It comes from the god
Oh,
Vulcan.
the god Vulcan. Yeah.
Now, this is, I always think of my brother when I deal with mythology a lot because my brother was perhaps he was the biggest authority on mythology, regardless of whatever. You could talk about Aztec mythology, and my brother knew stuff about it. So, that being the case, one of the things I always did when we talked about volcanoes when I was a fourth and fifth grade teacher was talk about the Roman and Greek pantheon and how those things gave the names to the planets, the names of certain phenomena, and certain things like that. And Webbs, why is the god Vulcan? Do you know why the god Vulcan is associated with volcanoes?
Isn't Vulcan like, man, I feel like I'm on Jeopardy or something. Isn't Vulcan like the Roman version of a Hephaestus and he was like the build things and fire and
He's the forge master, right?
hammers and stuff? Forge, yeah, there you go.
So, what do you need in order to forge weapons? You need
Fire.
fire, right? He also had a very short temper, right? So the explosions of the volcano, the eruption was him not only forging weapons, but being angry and having this kind of like angry disposition in how he did his work. All right. Also, they believe that in Sicily, under this island of Volcano, that he actually worked underneath the island of Volcano. Therefore, things popped off. Very, very interesting stuff. But I wanted to get to that question. Now, wonderful find, Dana. We've got these 10 ideas here. We could go to Andy's search and say, okay, cool. What if we just didn't want ideas? So we have this body of knowledge. We want to talk about how might one survive a volcanic eruption? Give me 5 tips from verified resources and explain them as if I were a kindergarten student. Now, every time I work with kids, I always tell them, I advise them to add that, explain it to me as if I was a kindergarten student. Either their fifth grade, their eighth grade, their 12th grade. If you explain it to me in the simplest way possible, the likelihood that I'm going to understand the answer is going to be a lot higher than if you just say, you either don't give it parameters or you say, I'm an eighth grade student. It assumes that I want it simply when I add that parameter of the kindergarten. Eighth grade student, what does that actually mean? Their eighth graders are operating in high school language. There's eighth graders that are operating at eighth grade language. Their eighth graders are operating at a fifth grade level, perhaps. It gets a little fuzzy. Kindergarten, or as simply as possible, or like I'm a 5-year-old, things that are going to qualify the way that you want it to interact with you are going to give it a lot better chance for you to understand what it's all about, especially when you're dealing with a subject that you're not an expert in. All right, if you're talking about nuclear physics or the Pythagorean theorem, if you're not familiar with it, or anything like that that are complex, you want to go and give it those parameters. So let's deal with and see how Andy deals with this. All right, so we have some information, that's kind of the history of volcanoes. We want to perhaps think about how people could survive a volcano. So first, we're dealing with WikiHow. Webs, would that be a website that you would consume?
It would be sketchy. I would definitely need another source. Also, is that like a scrape on your knee? Like, what's happening
Maybe
there?
that's a burn. Let's look at the summarize
Okay.
and see. If you hear signs or see a plume of debris rising from a volcano, immediately tune into a radio or TV advisory with updates and instructions. Follow emergency instructions, evacuating nations. So those seem like logical things that you might do. Like not totally like specific to volcanoes, but not bad advice by any means. So let's close that. Let's see the explain and see what happens with the explain. And this is why I like Andy a lot. Cool. Let's see. 1, listen to the radio and watch TV to find out what's happening. Follow the instructions from authorities. I don't know if a volcano was like a volcano, like lava was actively going toward my house, and I'm going to sit next to my television and let me wait until there's a TV broadcast that shows. That may not be something I deal with, but interesting. But what's the second one is National Geographic, Webs.
Oh, yay, National Geographic. That is a trustworthy.
So
Also, maybe we need to be more specific about like how emergencetic this explosion is, because in my head it was like there is lava coming at us, and I feel like WikiHow was like, there's like a it's like a volcano watch. Maybe there may be tacos in the area, something like
perhaps.
that.
All right. American Red Cross, is that some a resource
That
you
could
might
be
want?
reliable, yeah.
Let's see American Red Cross. Great. Are interesting. All right. There are potential act that tells us where potential volcano hotspots are. So if I travel to those places, or I may live in those places, that may be something I'm aware of. Stay connected. Plan to stay safe. All right, those are, and it's pretty easy. They've also got a checklist for us that we could reference.
But again, this is not giving lavas coming toward my house.
Ah,
I was more looking for lavas toward my house advice.
okay, so this is the CDC. All right, let's see.
Okay.
Let's summarize theirs and see what happens. All right, prepare for a volcanic eruption. Follow the advice of local. So I think everyone's like, you need
There's
to.
lava coming. We don't know what to tell you.
We
You
might
should have
be hemmed
prepared
up.
for
Like
now.
it seems like those may be hemmed up situations. So you might want to not. If you live in those particular areas, you may want to be constantly aware that this volcano might explode and get out of the area so you can watch the news from a safe distance or whatever that's necessary. But that is to say, there are potential.
Also, okay, I just gotta say one if I get caught with lava and all I get is like a scarred shin, I feel like I'm good. Like I
I,
don't need WikiHow to tell me how to treat my lava affected shin.
but most people don't die from lava, though. They die from sulfur dioxide. So the gas would get you before the lava would get you. So
Huh.
fundamentally, the fact that sulfur dioxide is not mentioned in this situation is very interesting to me as well. Because if we
But you
look at,
know that because you have prior knowledge.
yes, so let's go. All
Uh
right, cool. So this is going back here, and this is kind of one of the genius questions that is here. In the past 250 years, which volcano killed the most people? It's actually Tambora in Indonesia. And look at that.
I cannot read that. Would you read it aloud, please?
In 1815, about 10,000 people were killed by the eruption of Tambora. Famine and disease caused by the eruption killed approximately 80,000 more people. So,
Interesting.
the lava didn't kill people. The effects of the lava burning up crops, etc., but also sulfur dioxide, that gas. Because if you go further into the research, sulfur dioxide, those plumes pull all kind of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere that cause all kind of things to happen as a chain reaction. So super interesting stuff. But let's go. We got some things that are there. We're going to copy and paste some things here. We're going to use perplexity because what we want to do, Webs, is we want to build a movie. We're going to create a movie about what we learned about volcanic eruptions and volcanoes. And we're going to build a zombie apocalypse movie, Webs.
We're going to build a movie in 10 minutes.
Absolutely, because I did a lot of the pre-work already. Now, I've learned, Webs, I've learned. So
it's like Food Network.
Absolutely.
Here's the cast.
So we're going to build this movie, and I'm going to build this prompt in immediately. Great. So we're going to give it its information.
Prompt.
Absolutely. You are an award-winning screenwriter, so we're going to tell it what kind of human you are or what kind of actor you are in this particular situation. You will structure a script with the high concept, because I know that term from screenwriting. What if a volcanic... High concept means, what is the what-if question that spurs the entire genesis of this particular movie? What if a volcanic eruption causes zombie apocalypse? So that is going to be our big what-if question. The protagonist is Dr. Naomi St. John, an African-American volcanologist based in Jakarta, Indonesia, who discovers a secret bunker of gases buried on an Indonesian island. This gas, when combined with sulfur dioxide, changes humans into flesh-eating zombies. Along with her colleague, Dr. Martina Velasquez, a Spanish-speaking seismologist from Ecuador, Dr. St. John tries to survive the ordeal and bring the cause of the apocalypse to light in hopes of finding a cure. So that is going to be our film. Now,
I 21st Century Fox.
I mean, hey. So I came up with that. The AI did not generate that. I sat and thought about what I wanted to deal with. So as a human, that is the information I'm bringing to the table. All right. Now, the things that are here are all ideas from that 10-question National Geographic survey. So these are all things that I learned from those 10 questions. So I'm going to make sure those things are all embedded in this script because I want these things to have. The script should serve to educate readers about facts about volcanoes. So these are 10 things I know are true. How volcanic eruptions occur and safety precautions to take if you are in an area which has active volcanoes. So I'm going to go right back to my situation here and say, okay, cool. Andy gave me some ideas here. I'm going to summarize this. I'm going to copy this.
I think it's also one of the, I don't know why I haven't thought about this before, but for teachers that are worried about like the cheating issue, open it up to AI and have your students submit, hey, this was my prompt that I submitted.
And that's
like
why
this prompt in and of itself is like a paper.
But the perplexity is really dope because of the fact that you can share it there in the top right-hand corner. So if I want to have a situation where this is the prompt, these are the things that I was supposed to make sure that were there, I can check those all off if I'm an educator. Bada bing. Eruption of the Undead is what it called it. Wonderful. Log line.
That's a catchy title. Maybe we need to workshop it a little bit. But yeah, for a first pass, it's a catchy title.
It works, right? Great. So Eruption of the Undead, I can see George Romero already like salivating about the particular script. Log line with an eruption, or a volcanic eruption in Indonesia releases toxic gas. That's exactly what I said. That's the information I gave it. Uh-oh. Got an alarm. Hold on for a second. Technical issues.
Log line is a term I've never heard before.
Yeah, give me a second. Oh.
Not like I haven't had dogs bark.
Yeah, this is true.
That is life. We are real time.
Hey Siri, turn the alarm off. Thank you. Here we go. So in terms of this log line, that's essentially what I gave it. It didn't come up with that. I gave it that situation. Act
Also,
one.
apologies to all of our iOS using listeners
Yes.
who just had their SIRI go, there's no alarm set.
Act one, act two, act three, act four, educational elements, the significance of understanding vocabulary. Wonderful. Now, did this go and give me a full script? Absolutely not. But it gave me, if I wanted to write my own script, I have the scenes laid out that I can kind of fool around with. I can also, because this is an AI tool, I can ask follow-up questions. Include, so let's reconsider the script and include that information. Bada bing. Now, if I were to add new information by hand, it would take a long time for me to do this. AI did that in like no time. Great. That's dope. Say I'm going to deal with that. Let's do something sexy. So I've got this basic script that's here, got the scenes and whatnot, and I am going to copy that. But I also would share a copy of that with my teacher. Hey, here's the script outline of my deal. Wonderful. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to AI Tactician because, like, why not? Because I want like a cool little song to go with this thing. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to go to this. I like, one of the things I really enjoy is shows or movies with soundtracks that are like bumpable. Like you want to listen to that soundtrack afterwards. So let's deal with that first. I'm going to go and deal with the music effects. And what I want is, what exactly does that log line sound like? Because that's going to give me a little bit of inspiration as I write things, I consider things. I think that's important. You may be somebody who's different, but I love music. I think it's important. Cool. That's what I'm going to throw inside there. Now, the other thing I'm going to add is, a soundtrack for a movie with the following premise. All right, cool. I want it to have, let's see, that bass I think is kind of important. I think it got a little bit of thump is dope. And it should be exciting. So I'm going to generate that. So that's going to be cooking in the background. Then I'm going to go to a tool called Catalyst. And Catalyst is dope because it gives you the ability to generate. That sounds mad ominous. That gives you that kind of zombie apocalypse joint.
Creepy.
That is the sound, right? So as I'm writing, as I'm building, I'm gonna have that bumping in the background, really with the like, oh, okay, that's gonna be inspiring stuff. What Catalyst lets me do is Catalyst is really dope because it's gonna build out all the scenes to this particular movie for me. So I'm gonna go into Perplexity, and you see I've got all the acts, the scenes are there. So I'm gonna take all this and just that stuff and copy it. And I'm going to go to Catalyst here. It also would generate a script for me as well. But I'm going to hit that blank project. Cool. And I'm going to say, what is it? The Eruption of the Undead?
Eruption of the Undead.
All right, cool. Let's do landscape. Let's do a dark graphic novel because that seems like ominous and like cool there. Let's see if there are any other things. Yeah, the dark. Yeah, that does what I needed to do. All right, cool.
We don't want it to be like a black and white sitcom.
I mean,
that would be an interesting twist.
It would be interesting. So I'm gonna click script here. Actually, let's do it the quick way. I'm not gonna do all that. So I'm gonna hit the paste from clipboard and just do it this way. Great. There's my stuff. Continue, and it'll process it. Now, we had the facts and figures. I came up with the initial idea, etc. It's going to break down everything for me to keep everything kind of significant. And this is a lot more fun to do than I'm gonna write a so Naomi. So Naomi's an African American, so I don't want this person to look like that. So I've got these individuals.
I think that's a great point to where uh there is a bit of racism baked in,
Absolutely.
right? Like there are a lot of algorithms, AI that have trouble detecting darker skin. I think that's also a conversation worth having um, when it comes to the ethics around AI and the fact that you'll end up with things like that when you ask it to generate images.
But also a situation where we're talking about the human in the loop. I knew I'd written that Naomi St. John's was an African American woman. It did not generate an African American woman for me. I can go and I can fix that thing, right? I am
Yep.
still important inside of the loop in this particular process, right? So I'm in or and if I were to generate this and there was still a Caucasian woman as the main character, if I'm a teacher and I look at this is what you said the script was and this is what you generated, I can say that student did not actually go through the entire process with a keen eye to ensure that the script actually was the storyboards were actually generated from the script that they produced. So I made that create project and look at that. So it's going to give me like a little bit more fleshed out scenes for everything. So if I wanted to shoot that movie, I've got those scenes. It's going to extract the script for me and build everything. I know we're a little bit over time, but this is really, really sexy, really, really cool. If you want your students, again, do I have to be a professional screenwriter to do this? I just needed the facts about the volcano. You, as a teacher, just need to present to me here is the rubric. This is what you're asked to do, and say, go do what you need. I could have created a ballet. I could have created a telenovela. I could have created uh, a post-apocalyptic, volcanic eruption for the humans to have it. All that stuff.
Broadway musical. Totally
Broadway,
done a Broadway
whatever. Right? Look at how, first of all, the consistency of the character, pretty consistent all the way through. I have locations that are there, so if I want to build the locations in, I can export all those things as a storyboard and shoot those things if I wanted to. If I wanted to draw by hand, I now have a lot of. I can add dialogue, I can add notes, but that really set me up for success as a producer of materials. I'm gonna hit that present button, and bada bing, I've got my story all the way through. I can send that link to my teacher. Here's my story. Here's the script that I collaborate with AI. Here's the storyboards that I'm dealing with. As we go through,
Going back to the human in the loop, like there are a lot of them that are person in the middle of the frame. There's not a lot of like wider frame cuts or super close ups. That might be something worth tweaking or editing.
I could take these and take it to another AI, generative AI tool like Midjourney or Ideogram or whatever and say, I got the basic thing down. Now let's go and really use my creativity to add some of the foreground, the background, to move people around, to add some action. I don't like this. I want it to look cyberpunk, or I want it to look have a brutalism to it that really speaks to it. Or what is George Romero? What kind of lighting did George Romero use in Day of the Dead? I want that same kind of lighting and whatnot. But it gives me a it shortcuts the concept of trying to figure out a lot of things, Webs, in terms of these tools didn't generate the entire idea. They just helped me toward this is what I want. Here are the tools that can help me toward realizing that vision. And I am not someone who is on the ride. I am actually quarterbacking all of the action and activity and looking at it and saying that's not what I want, or these things need to be included, or these things need to be taken away. And so being that human in the loop, super important. And it's not cheating.
Agreed. I think it also allows the learner to focus on the things that are most important while still being able to produce a high quality output. And so many kids get hung up on the quality of the output and being frustrated that it doesn't match what's going on in their head that they get discouraged. And this gives them an opportunity to focus on the things you want them to master and learn about while still being able to produce high quality output.
The question I always had to convince students, the thing I always had to convince a lot of my learners with when we first started the school year, but Mr. Lang, I can't draw. And that was a reason why they would not engage. If I say, hey, let's go draw a sketch of X, Y, Mr. Lang, I can't draw. Yes, you can. You can draw. You can engage in the process. You can't draw because you're comparing what your output is to whatever fantasy you have in X, Y, and Z. But in the grand scheme of things, now I can really say, and I'll go back and use the video editing situation. When I first started, a lot of the product that I was creating was garbage product. But once I started to consume more, to see examples, and people gave me shortcuts to how you could make things look very, very elegant. Oh, suddenly I'm like, okay, I see how a master would do this in this particular situation. But if you never attempt to do that, you never get the opportunity to say, I can't draw and that doesn't matter. I can produce something that I can then improve over time with. And like even again, the last principle that Malik has in his book is this is the worst AI that you're going to experience. Like the AI will continue to get better just like you. And there needs to be a synergy between you as the human are going to improve, the AI is going to improve, and we can improve together in order to create output that makes me happy as a human being. So that is our show for this week. For those who are watching who are in the Las Vegas area, October 19th, we are doing just a AI creativity imagination extravaganza at NECTA. That's the Northeast Career and Technical Academy up in Northtown or North 5th Street. It is a free experience. Tickets are severely limited. We have lots of people who have signed up. We're going to do some very, very funky stuff. We're going to use AI tools. We use collaborative strategies. We're going to be hopefully networking so that teachers are working with one another as well and collaborating. But that's a free ticket, October 19th, 8 to 4. You can find that information on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and on our Instagram, I believe, as well. It's coming to LinkedIn probably on Monday, but the tickets are severely limited. Like we don't have unlimited space. So if you want to be part of that, definitely sign up for a ticket. We'd love to have you to be able to collaborate. That's the other thing, Webs, I think AI is going to do. It is going to force humans to understand they have to collaborate with other humans as well. That there are certain things that you don't know that other humans do know, that you need to be in the room with those other humans so that you also know those things. Because if you sit isolated in your room and lean on your own understanding in which to navigate certain things, you're going to be eating up a lot of time and you may not get to the place that you want. But this hopefully is going to
I
be...
couldn't do
Go
my
ahead,
job if I just try to roll solo.
and so we're going to try to we had a lot of outpouring for people who wanted this particular type of event. We're going to try to do a couple more this school year. Shouts out to the Nevada Envy Side and also to Spaces EDU for sponsoring this event. But it's totally free. We're going to have lunch. We're going to give everybody a Spaces EDU account for free. That's going to be really dope. And anything to add to that, Webs?
No, it should be a good time. If you are looking to have a fun time on a Saturday,
I
come on
mean,
by.
like, why wouldn't you? You get free lunch too. I mean, it's kind of far from where I live, but it'll be fun. Also, it's one of the newest schools in Clark County. It looks like a community college. If you have not been on that campus, it's definitely going to hopefully encourage your imagination to how we might have schools produced and constructed going forward as well. All right, any closing thoughts for the people, Webs?
Nope.
All right. God bless Lithuania. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. Follow us on the socials, and we'll be in contact.